My name is Wally Barrett. I've been working with homeless people for over 35 years in Denver. And there's a question that comes up all the time, and I noticed nobody talks about it here or anywhere for that matter. But move along to death is what I heard all night long. The Denver Coroner's Office tells me that one person every single day dies from homelessness in Denver County alone. I would love to hear someone who actually deals intimately with the homeless population to speak to that.
So, you heard that right. According to the Denver County Coroner's Office, one homeless person a day, 365 a year, die just in the city of Denver alone. What are the statistics across the country in bigger cities like New York or Los Angeles? Ibrahim Mubarak is going to go on to speak and answer his question. And I think it's something that maybe a lot of us haven't actually considered before. And it's going to play into, again, I'm going to let him speak for himself. Let's take a listen.
I do deal somewhat with the houseless community in Denver. I deal with the houseless community everywhere, and you're right. More people are dying because their possessions is being taken. They're being pushed to the outskirts of the city, to the rivers where the industrial complex been polluting our rivers for hundreds of years and stuff. So they drinking polluted water. They bathing up in polluted water. They cooking in polluted water. And then when they're doing vegetables, growing their own gardens, the water's seeking the soil. So what they're doing, they're eating polluted vegetables. And it's no fact that we don't have nowhere to go. And also when we get sick, we go to the hospital and they take care of us. But when you get sick that live in houses, they release you to your house. When a houseless person gets sick, they release them back to that element where they got sick at, and they got compound of sickness happening to them. So some people is doing self-medication, they killing themselves, or the elements is killing them. And we have to take better care of our environment also.
So, what he's saying there comes back to, kind of almost big government versus small government. The lack of regulations on these industrial plants leads to contaminated water, which can affect not just homeless people, but everybody, which is the whole argument with Standing Rock. So, these homeless people who are being policed out of the city because they're making it look ugly are being pushed to the outskirts of the city where the rivers are, where they can actually kind of, grow their own food, have a water source, but it's not clean. So their water is contaminated by pollutants. Their food that they grow on their own is contaminated by their pollutants. I'm sure the air they're breathing is contaminated. So, and then they go to the hospital and they're taken care of. Now, mind you, they go to the ER. It's not like they can go to the doctor. It's not like they have insurance. It's not like they have money to pay. So they go to the ER, which comes out of our tax money. And we pay for that. And they get released right back into the same exact environment that made them sick in the first place. And they keep going and they keep going and keep going until they die. Whether from being poisoned or from hypothermia or starving or dehydration. God knows what. Actually, you know what? The next guy, John Hayden, is going to go into the top 4 reasons homeless people die. So let's take a listen to that.
Thank you. So one of the things that I'm hoping is that the solution that we come up with takes into account what is the causes of death of the people who are living on the street, and that we're actually looking at that. And I don't see that very often. When in the 2014 study that was done by the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless, what they found the top 4 causes of death of the homeless was complications in Denver that year were complications due to drug and alcohol abuse was number one. Number two was number two was heart disease. Number three was murder and suicide, and number four was diabetes. And so I think that it's essential that the environment that we come up with, the environment that we come up with is one that actually addresses those issues that are causing people to die.
So he makes a great point that if we are going to start addressing homeless people dying, we need to first understand why. And the first three, I can't exactly, have a great reasoning for diabetes. I'm sure there's a ton of reasons that feed into all four of these issues. But drug and alcohol abuse, this is, it comes back to stereotypes of homeless people. Why do so little people give money to homeless? Because they think as soon as they do, they're going to go buy drugs or alcohol with it. And it's the same thing with food stamps and welfare and everything like that. We always believe they're going to abuse it. I didn't know that in America, we were allowed to regulate how people spent their money. I didn't know that the government is allowed to tell me I have to buy this brand over that brand. Because that's essentially what this is. These people have nothing. I've gone through breakups where I've abused drug and alcohol. Are you kidding me? If I was homeless, of course I would be doing it more. And it's like Ray says in my last video, just because you're homeless doesn't mean you can't have anything. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you can't have fun or spend money on anything that isn't an essential. Because God forbid you treat yourself. But rich people can have 5 fucking cars and it's not a problem. It's a collection. It's not hoarding, it's a collection. Heart disease. What is the number one leading cause of heart disease? Stress. Heart attack. Stress. Stress. What's the most stressless thing you can imagine? Not having anywhere to live. Not knowing where your next meal is going to come from. Not knowing whether you're going to survive tomorrow night because it's only going to be -2. Murder and suicide. If you didn't know if you were going to survive tomorrow, if you didn't know where your next meal was coming from, either you're going to kill someone to get it or you're going to kill yourself because you don't know where you're going to get it from. And it's every single day, in and out. That is your life. The next, there was a reporter from Westword, actually. I'm gonna play the clip, but I wanted to introduce it, who is actually covering homeless deaths. And I just want to give a shout out to Westword. I've been reading them almost the entire time I've been living in Colorado. Every time I see one of their stories, I may not get the time to read it, but I know it's an in-depth investigative report that actually gets to the core of the problem and actually does real journalism. And it's a free magazine. You can pick it up. There's dispensers around the city that just say Westword. 100% recommend. If you don't live in Colorado or Denver, you can read them online, westword.com. Total shout out. I wish I was being funded by them or I worked for them, but I do want to say that I think they do really great work. And let's play the clip from the man who's doing the investigation.
I am with Westword. I'm working on an article right now about homeless deaths due to hypothermia, people who have succumbed to the cold. I was speaking to the coroner's office this week. I can tell you that it's been 8 individuals since February 2015. We will be getting the autopsy reports soon to find out the narratives of those deaths, whether they were moved along, whether they were alone, how much cover they had from the cold before they died.
Now, just for context, I believe the camping ban was passed in 2012. So there is a perspective of Well, at least only 8 people have died. The other perspective is, which is my perspective, one life is too many. And Ray is going to go on to make this point later, very passionately, to Brooks, to his face. And I believe it's right after this next clip. You're killing people. Those 8 people would not be dead if you hadn't passed the camping ban, which is exactly why we cannot back up that claim. I cannot back up that claim. That is exactly why the Westward Reporter is doing the research into understanding how these people died, whether or not they were moved off, whether or not their stuff was confiscated. And to me, I think we should note that his last line, how much cover they had from the cold before they died. I want to cry saying that, repeating it. I could hear it in his voice. He wanted to cry saying it. And I'm sure doing this report is going to bring him to tears more than once. Because it's a fucking travesty that our government is willing to let people die just so they don't have to look at the problem anymore. I'm done letting our government disappear people. Let's keep listening.